The first two games of the ALDS are over. As we head back to New York and Detroit, we'll get you prepared for all of it on Locked On MLB Game Night.
When that final out is made, you know it's time for Locked On MLB Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On MLB Game Night. Your team every day.
Welcome to MLB Game Night, every game, every night. I'm your Sunday night host, Brian McKeon, alongside my partner and Locked On Red Sox postcast host, Steve Lenox. Steve, how are we doing today?
Doing well. What a great weekend and what a great cap-off Sunday with the two games. No, your Yankees didn't win, so disappointing for you. But, Jays are up 2-0, and the Mariners, Tigers got what they wanted. They finally go home, and they have a home playoff game, but they're even 1-1 in that series that departs from Seattle.
What an addition to the best sports month of the year. Both the AL and NLDS series take a lot better shape. But before I get to that, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download that app today. So we'll start off with the Yankees and the Blue Jays north of the border. Toronto wins this game 13-7. They lead the series 2-0 as it heads back to New York. Now, Steve, I don't want to sit here and let people hear the score of 13-7 and think, oh, this was a close game that was back and forth and the Blue Jays took off late. That's not exactly what happened at all. The Blue Jays completely dominated this game, made a joke of the Yankees, and the Yankees just simply took advantage of a pretty poor Toronto middle relief system in their bullpen. That's really all that happened in this game. But the storyline is Trey Yesavage, the kid who's starting his fourth career game, the number 20 overall pick from last season, the Toronto Blue Jays drafted. He went 5 1/3, no hits, no earned, 1 walk, and 11 strikeouts. At one point, he struck out 6 in a row. One of the best rookie starts in the history of Major League Baseball in the postseason. Unbelievable stuff. Let's hear from Braden of Locked On Blue Jays. He's going to give us his reaction of the Blue Jays taking a 2-0 series lead here.
Oh my God. That's a Toronto Blue Jays win. Everyone always says, you always have a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Well, the Blue Jays did the punching. Trey Yesavage sets a Blue Jays record 11 strikeouts. This guy was insane. Ernie Clement kicks it off. What a start. What a home run. Beauty. Also, not enough people talking about Dalton Varsho right now. What an immaculate game he had. Everybody's been wondering, will the $500 million man show up when the lights are the brightest? This postseason, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. showed everybody why he's worth that money. 2 wins down. Shane Bieber on the mound on Tuesday. Let's go. You know what? Play Carter.
Talk about stark contrast between these two teams, right? The Yankees, who have had their superstar struggle to impress in the big moments in the postseason and struggle to come through where it matters most. Stark contrast from game 1 to game 2. Aaron Judge comes up in game 1 of this series with the bases loaded and strikes out in a big spot. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. comes up in game 2 of this series with the bases loaded. I know it was a 5-0 game at that point, but hits the grand slam and closes the door shut on any chance the Yankees could have had it winning this game. That is what a superstar player does in the postseason. And I'm not here to talk bad about Aaron Judge, but this was a dominant Blue Jays performance from the offensive standpoint, from the defensive standpoint. It was fully through. Max Fried goes 3 innings, 8 hits, 7 earned, 2 walks, and 1 strikeout. Max Fried's worst start of the season. His worst start of the regular season also came against the Toronto Blue Jays, so it seems like they might have his number. Really just disappointing stuff from a Yankees perspective and from a Blue Jays perspective. Steve, I don't know how you couldn't feel the most confidence if you're a Toronto fan and how you don't think they're going to waltz to the American League Championship Series at this point.
Yes, but we know they're going to the Bronx. Rodon Bieber, that's going to be a good pitching matchup. I'm really curious to see, go back to the division or go back to the wild card round. You saw what happened in game 2. Alex Cora knew that was a must win. It was going to be shaky for game 3. Game 3, you mentioned Yesavage and the great start that he had. Well, Cam Schlittler had a tremendous game 3 start against the Red Sox, but Alex Cora emptied his bullpen. Brian Bayo threw only 28 pitches. I worry that John Schneider is going to try to do similar in game 3. Maybe he doesn't have designs on doing that. But you have a game 4 where Schlittler, I think, has the advantage in the pitching matchup for game 4. So you can't you can't just absolutely unload on your bullpen if you're the Blue Jays in game 3. But you also want to end this as fast as possible. And really being up 2-0, you don't want this as the team with the home field advantage right now. You don't want this going back to game 5 in Toronto. You want to end this in the Bronx. Maybe it's game 3 and a sweep, but really you don't want to go back. You want to pick up a victory in either game 3 or game 4. It's on the table. I worry about game 3 though.
Yeah, it's not an advantage. It's the wrong word to use. But when a team's down 2-0 and they're going back home, the sort of advantage they have is if Toronto loses game 3, their backs are completely against the wall in game 4. It's almost as if all the pressure goes onto Toronto at that point. So we'll see what winds up happening. But overall, in these first 2 games, the Yankees did not impress. They were outscored embarrassingly. It was so bad from a Yankee perspective to watch these two. Listen, and the storylines are going to continue, and rightfully so. Aaron Judge doesn't hit in these big games, and it feels like all the big hits that he does have in these spots are in garbage time. And I'm sorry, that's how great players are defined. They're defined when at the biggest moments, when the pressure is the highest. He has made a career so far of having some of the most stellar regular season numbers we've ever seen. He's one of the greatest right-handed hitters in history. I think it's fair to say that at this point. But he doesn't get it done in the postseason. And those other right-handed hitters in the conversation did. So it's hard for me to sit here and not have an issue as a Yankee fan. The evidence is too stacked at this point, Steve. You can't make the excuses of, his average is here or his RBIs. The evidence is too stacked at this point. Whenever there's a big moment, he consistently does not come through.
You're not paying him to be a singles hitter. He's got 8 hits in the postseason so far, 7 singles, 2 RBIs, and it is the other guys. I don't know if you saw it on FS1 where Derek Jeter is saying, it's not just on Judge, and there's some guys in this lineup right now. Grisham's not hitting in front of him.
No.
Giancarlo Stanton's got a couple, you talk about garbage time, 2-run single in the 7th inning. That does nothing for me. He's 3 for 20 so far in the first 5 games of the postseason. And all we heard was, from what he did last year, well, last year we know is in the past. They're not hitting enough right now. And 3 outscored so far 23-8. Blue Jays offense is going. And, as they get Savage the runs early, that puts him at ease to a certain degree.
Yep, 100%. It's a great point.
And he did it. Fastball 95, 96. And I was so impressed by him pitching into both the left side hitters, Bellinger, and then all of a sudden, he's pitching in. He's not getting strikes, but he's pitching in with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. That set up his splitter so many times when he got one, a strike on a batter or 2 strikes on the batter, and he was able to put him away. That
splitter, a devastating pitch. Guys were getting fooled in that all night. Again, like I said earlier, at one point he struck out 6 in a row, which is just unheard of in today's game. But to be able to be that young in that environment and that with that little experience, the Yankees had the advantage in this series, Steve, of starting pitching for sure. That was where the Yankees had their advantage built, and it did not show in game 2. Vlad Jr.'s grand slam was the first grand slam in Blue Jays history, believe it or not. Dalton Varsho also had 2 home runs. Ernie Clement had a home run. George Springer, who kills the Yankees, had a home run. Alejandro Kirk had a nice game, and he always kills the Yankees as well. Varsho went 4 for 5 in the game, 2 doubles, scored 4 runs, drove in 4. Unbelievable performance out of him. It's the second straight game that the Toronto Blue Jays had double-digit runs and double-digit hits, and you want to hear this crazy stat. Toronto in this postseason has more home runs than they do strikeouts. 8 home runs. 7 strikeouts. Yeah. That's insane. Yeah. And it's that's their benefit. They don't strike out, and that's what they put the ball in play and they make you make perfect plays. That's why they're a bad matchup for the New York Yankees.
Did Fried to you at all? And you Savage poise. Schlittler last week against the Red Sox, tremendous poise and a huge start. The biggest starts of their professional careers to this point, obviously. But it just seemed like the body language with Fried, and even when he was in the dugout after his outing was over on Sunday, he almost looked as if, what the heck just happened here?
Yeah, shell shock is the word I would use.
Shell shock of what, how did this happen? Did I just do that? Did they already take me out? I'm out of the game. It just in a blink of an eye. I even thought in the series against the Red Sox, maybe that blister had come back because he kept shaking his hand, and they talked about the weather and maybe the feel. Rodon had similar, but the two rookies, Schlittler and Yasavage, compared to Fried did not get the job done.
Yeah, no, and Fried was excellent in game 1 against the Red Sox. He really gave them everything. It was just Whitlock was just the Cy Young candidate that he is. Yeah, I don't have an explanation for why Fried did what he did. It's upsetting, to be honest with you, because you go out in the offseason and give him $218 million. And, the regular season's wonderful. It is. But when it comes to certain franchises like the Yankees, like the Red Sox, like the Dodgers, like the Cubs, these big market, big name teams, Steve, you're getting paid that money to do that in the postseason. The month of October is what matters for those contracts. And if you're not going to perform in the month of October, that $200 million is worthless to most Yankee fans and to the Yankee organization. So hopefully he gets, for my sake, he gets another chance to pitch in this postseason, but ain't looking too good at this point right now. On the other side, we got to talk about the series that was tied up. The Tigers at the Mariners, and what an electric game that we had out in Seattle that just got ended. Guys, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock the $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, I love using FanDuel. It gives me so many ways to play. I've built tons of parlays, tried player props, and even follow the live lines during the games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app today to get started. So, Steve, this game, one of the games of the postseason so far, it was that good, that exciting, that back and forth. I personally saw game 1 of this series, and Tigers-Mariners end, and Tigers take a 1-0 lead. And I think if you're a Mariners fan, you kind of sit there and get a little nervous because you know Scooble's coming at you in game 2, and you kind of had to take game 1 to ideally send it back to Detroit at 1-1. You go into the Scooble start, and the Mariners just, handled Scooble, right? They did what they could. Scooble dominated for the most part, but in this game, they Jorge Polanco tags him twice. It's all they really needed behind really good pitching, and that was all it really took. So it is kind of crazy with these aces. You don't necessarily have to tag them for 6-7 runs. You just got to get them where you can. And they were able to do that, followed by great pitching from Luis Castillo. And the series is now tied going back to Detroit.
Yeah, I think Polanco, I saw, was the 4th player against Scooble to hit 2 home runs in a game against him. And he takes a no decision in this one, but they beat him twice during the regular season, and ultimately they win in game 2. I mean, this was backs to the wall. It goes 1-1. I give credit to the Tigers. They got what they needed. But now they go home for the first time in the postseason. I think that's huge for them right now. But again, you need to get it back to Detroit, or back to you want Scooble for one more time. I don't think they take both at home in Detroit. And, Seattle, they still have pitching. And what I loved about them, Brian, was the fact that, the Tigers tie it up in the top of the 8th inning against the bullpen and Brash, and they come right back and answer in that bottom half of the 8th inning. That was huge, and it was their 2 big guys. It was Raleigh, who I think has stayed within himself in this series so far. Scores on the double by Julio Rodriguez. And by the way, Julio Rodriguez is a star, just in case, there are people out there who are discovering who he is. He is a star, budding superstar in my view. I've liked him since the beginning. He's had his ups and downs, but he's showing up here so far in the postseason. But, Mariners lose game 1, but they do come back and win a game against the Tigers where Scooble pitched well, but doesn't end up with the victory, and they end up taking game 2.
No, and let's discuss what's important about this too, because we always highlight the depth that teams have going into the postseason, and it is valuable for sure. You need depth pieces. You need guys that are going to make the plays in the field, that are going to come through with the clutch hits. Absolutely. And that's kind of what makes the trade deadline a big deal. But at the end of the day, these teams are going to go as far as their superstars take them. They're going to go as far as their aces take them, and they're going to go as far as their best hitters take them. And we forget that these teams get to this point because of their superstars doing what they do through 162. Those guys need to continue that at the times. And Polanco, really solid player. I wouldn't call him a superstar, but solid player, gets in the 2 runs. It's 2-2. The Tigers come back to tie the game late. It's 2-2. And then, like you said, bottom of the 8th, who's the guy that comes through? Cal Raleigh with the double. Julio Rodriguez, the two guys that have been there throughout the entire season, that have been able to get it done throughout the entire season. Their two superstars put the team on their back, put the city of Seattle on their back, and were able to secure the win. And that's really what it comes down to, Steve, is your superstars, when it matters most, have to come through in the big moments and make the plays for you. And that's what happened here. Do we have word from anybody else on these games?
No, we don't have Scott or Ty Dane. Scott's probably wondering how we didn't, how the Tigers didn't win a school bowl start, and Ty Dane saying, "Hey, you know what?" Because when Lindsay and I had both of them from Saturday into Sunday, they basically said the same thing, just from different vantage points from their team side. Of hey, we're down a game, and now we have to face school bowl. They got through them. And
I wonder what he'd say if I read this stat line to him before the game started. Tarek School, 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. I feel like you kind of signed for that, right? You'd think the Tigers are going to be able to score more.
100. 100%. Tigers are going home up 2 games to none in the series.
Yep. And then Luis Castillo gives you 4 2/3. Did they pull him a little too early, in your opinion, or did you like where they made the move? It worked, but
it did. The first 2 innings, he threw a ton of pitches. And that question's always posed. And we always think, you pulled him too early. But again, the manager's always going to know best. Was Bayo, I know I keep going back to the Red Sox-Yankee series. Was Bayo pitch, pulled too early? Absolutely he was. You had to at least let him get through that first bump on the road. Castillo's a veteran, so I would say, why not try to let him get through 5? Let him get 15 outs.
And going to that Yankee-Red Sox series, like you said, Bayo might have been pulled early for maybe the same reason that Castillo was pulled early here. It's that nervous energy of, we can't let this get away from us. And that was what happened with Bayo, and I think that might have been what happened with Castillo. Overall, 4 2/3, 1 hit, no earned, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. They get the bullpen to come in and save the day, and that really solidified everything for them. They were able to, again, get through that game. They were able to get through the next couple of innings afterwards. Tigers do tie this, though. They tie. Let's not forget that. Spencer Torkelson, a huge double down the line, drives in the 2 runs, ties the game. And I think that ballpark, is it still T-Mobile? I'm not really sure, but that ballpark must have gotten really, really, really quiet after that double, because you're talking about 24 years since a playoff victory in that ballpark. Well, not even just as a franchise in general. You're talking about, in Seattle, you're talking about all the stuff that comes back to haunt you as a Seattle Mariners fan. All of it's coming to a culmination at that point, and you're thinking, oh my God, we get out of the school bowl start with 2 runs. We have the lead. School bowl's out of the game. And then 2 runs are scored to tie it. But like I said, your superstars come through, and this is something that, from a Yankee perspective, Aaron Judge doesn't do. Like, he doesn't come through in the 8th inning and get you those 2 runs and take the lead back with the single, or with the double. It's huge to get that kind of performance. If you're the Mariners, it's huge to go back to Detroit at 2-2. They don't have Brian Wu for the series. That is kind of huge.
Right.
But if they're able to get this series back to Seattle, Seattle entered this series as a significant favorite over Detroit. And I don't think they're losing this series. I just don't, especially if they, like you said, the 2 victories over school bowl in the regular season. Now you prove yourself that you can win a school bowl start in game 2. Steve, I know this is 1-1 going back, and Detroit's handled their own for sure. I don't see Detroit winning this series. I just don't.
Yeah, but I do think, I agree with you 100%. But I do think it goes back for a game 5. In that sense, I think they'll split again the next 2 games. And then you're going to see school bowl one more time in Seattle. Logan Gilbert, I like. I missed time early on in the season. They all got healthy towards the end. Now, and all of a sudden, Brian Wu went down. I do think they would need him. Hopeful if they get to the ALCS, he's back. But how about Andres Munoz out of the bullpen? 2 perfect innings, and the extra inning loss in game 1, and then. You get that lead, top of the 9th inning, and all of a sudden that urgency, hey, we got the run. It's my time to go. They're ringing the bell for me. And he goes out there in the top of the 9th inning, 1, 2, 3, done deal. Doesn't give a glimmer of hope to Detroit in that 9th inning.
You need those kind of performances. And that is really what comes through in the postseason too, that you wind up learning, is the bullpens, and the bullpens that are able to kind of hold their own in these moments. A lot of these teams in particular wind up having terrific seasons in their bullpen through 162, and then the postseason hits and the bullpen seems to forget how to pitch. So this happens a lot, and really comes down to, what teams have the bullpens that stay the most consistent to where they were throughout the regular season. A lot of these teams too, being able to go to your bullpen late, it gets proven more and more. I know we're in an era, Steve, of not letting your starter go long, not letting him go deep into games, not letting him see the third part of the third rotation through the order. I know that's all the talk in baseball nowadays. But at the same time, I sit here and say, man, when the starters go longer and you're able to use the least bullpen arms possible, it usually winds up working out for those teams.
Yeah.
So I really wish sometimes that old school baseball method would be brought back into the light, because it winds up working more when guys give these teams more length.
One more reference to Red Sox Yankees game number 3. That's what the Yankees got out of it. I'm not calling them an unknown quantity, but no one at the beginning of that game thought that Schlittler was going to do what he did. I mean, and again, that took it off the bullpen for a couple of days. But again, to Seattle, the way they're set up, Kirby, Castillo, both similar. Kirby racks up the strikeouts in game 1. You knew he wasn't going to be long, and he definitely tired. The moment, all the being amped up early on, the adrenaline, everything. He definitely wore down. But I agree with you, and to the point of within it just behooves every single team to get a series done as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And also, they do have these days built in. I mean, they're both going to have 2 days, National League off Sunday and again on Tuesday. So, they can go to arms knowing that, they're going to get rest just because of the days off that are built in too. And we'll see who uses it to their advantage.
Yeah, the one benefit the Yankees had in the Blue Jays series is they didn't have to use any of their big arms in that game. I guess Will Warren was able to get enough outs for them through that game. Steve, on the other side.
And the Blue Jays sort of did. The Blue Jays, to your point there, the Blue Jays sort of did. You had to go to Varlin in the 8th inning in game 2 because the Yankees started getting closer. And if they had gotten runners on base in front of Judge or Stanton, John Schneider knew one swing. So he wasn't fooling around, even though they had that lead where one big swing couldn't hurt them, but it could have if they continued getting runners on base and, moving that line along.
The key to these teams a lot of the time, middle relief in that bullpen, not the back end guys, but you get to those middle guys with the high ERAs, you can cause some damage there. On the other side, we are going to preview Monday, which is National League Day in the postseason. All the game 2s are going to be played in the National League. We'll get to that on the other side. Believe it or not, most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth. And whether it's your 401k, your properties, or investments, when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving a lot of money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal financial tool that helps bring your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface. It's available on your laptop and your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives, and if you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts up together in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of all of your money without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. You can maximize investments. You can increase your savings rate, easily review your finances with your partner and your financial advisor while keeping a clear view of your financial health week to week, long term, whatever time frame you need. Don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. So, Steve, as I stated, the 2 game 2s in the National League will be played on Monday. Surprising series, I think, so far. I think both we thought, at least for one of them, we thought was going to be a lot more competitive, and one of them seemed like game 1 was going to be a wrap, and it did not turn out that way whatsoever. So I'll start off with that one, the earlier game. This game starts at 6:08 p.m. on TBS for all your affiliates. Dodgers at the Phillies. Dodgers have a 1-0 lead in the series after taking game 1. And when the Phillies get to that early 3-0 lead, I think we all kind of figured, all right, 1-1 back to LA. That's where it felt like it was. Dodgers didn't give up on things. Got the game back, won the game 5-3. Phillies did nothing on offense afterwards. This is a really interesting game. I think the pressure is really on Philadelphia here because with the expiring contracts they have coming up in the offseason and the players getting older, it does kind of feel like now or never for the Philadelphia Phillies. So this is a really pressure-packed situation for them.
It is. Of all the teams, the teams that are remaining, anyone that's going for games 3 and 4 and traveling, to be down 0-2. The Yankees are down 0-2, but they're going home. Phillies go down 0-2 and head to LA. They're not coming back for a game 5, in my opinion.
Interesting. I see the only sort of not advantage I'd call it, but positive you can draw out of it if you're Philadelphia. The Dodgers don't have a significant home field advantage when playing in LA. Now they are more comfortable there, but it's not like you're going into a raucous environment in Los Angeles. It just doesn't ever seem to be that way. Maybe there's something to that, but they'll also get Ranger Suarez there too, so there is something to that also. But overall, this is disappointing if you're Philadelphia, getting off to that early lead. The bank is rocking. You're really feeling great about the way things are going, and then you give that up, and you let the Ohtani start go by. Now, Jesus Luzardo goes for Philadelphia, 15-7 with a 3.92 ERA. He's going up against Blake Snell, who went 5-4 with a 2.35 ERA. Started the year off kind of shaky, but really rounded into form as the year closed out. Who do you give the advantage to in this spot? I'm curious what you have to say, because I love Philadelphia. I love their lineup. I love how deep it is, and I love how they've kind of sort of fixed their bullpen over the last few years. And I don't love the Dodgers bullpen whatsoever. Who's had a bad year, but it just feels like the pressure could get a little too much for Philadelphia.
Yeah, if the Philly bats aren't going early on, and Dave Roberts, you just never know. I mean, is he going to let Blake Snell go 5, or is he going to get into his bullpen even though there might be trust issues there? Is he going to go to him early? And are they going to, sort of, pay it forward to him of, hey, thanks for the confidence. We're going to get the job done. We're not going to make a fool of you. But Turner's just back off an injury.
Yeah.
Schwarber's got to get going. There was somebody, whether it was studio or in the in-game broadcast of, Aaron Judge is going to be 34 next year. How many more peak years do the Yankees have? Well, as you said, the moves upcoming for this offseason for the Phillies, there are going to be a lot of them. Dave Dombrowski emptied the farm system the best he could. He is a win. Think Bill Parcells when he went to the Cowboys or to the Jets. I'm here to win. So whatever we got in the farm system that we can put to send to Minnesota for Johan Duran or whatever, that's what I'm going to do. But how much more time does Bryce Harper have in peak years? And Schwarber could be out the door. He very well could be out the door. How much more time do you have where Bryce Harper is going to be your 1 or 2 or 3 most dangerous hitters in that lineup? Because if they're posing that question for Judge, you absolutely have to pose that for Bryce Harper, in my opinion.
And they could very well lose. They have a lot of money on the books. They could very well lose Kyle Schwarber, who's going to get paid by someone coming off a 50-plus home run season. Do we have Connor Thomas here for his thoughts on that? Yes, we do. Yeah, so Connor Thomas from Locked On Phillies is here. I want to hear his thoughts on what he thinks is going to transpire in Game 2.
The Philadelphia Phillies are already in potential dire straits in Game 2 of this series with the Dodgers. I'm Connor Thomas, your host of Locked On Phillies. And dropping Game 1 at home in the NLDS is not a recipe for success. The Phillies are 0-8 in their franchise history when losing Game 1 of a postseason series. So already not in a great spot. Jesus Luzardo takes the mound, though, and I think that's the right decision. He is much better at home than he is on the road. Ranger Suarez, who will probably start Game 3, is much better on the road than he is at home. So I think that's the right call for the Phillies. And they got some good news with Harrison Bader getting an MRI, and apparently the hamstring issue that he had that caused him to be removed from Game 1 isn't one that will necessarily keep him out of Game 2. He's going to try and give it a go. We will see, but there's so much on the line. And the top of the order, going 1 for 11 in Game 1 is not acceptable. Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper need to step up. Essentially, the Phillies' season is on the line in Game 2. And if your big boys don't show up, you're going home. So they need to wake up, and Rob Thompson needs to manage much, much better. And the Phils need to find a win. I don't know if they can because the Dodgers look good, but that's what's on the line in Game 2 of the NLDS. And we'll see if they have it in them in a gut check game to pull one out.
Common theme, my advice would be for the Philadelphia Phillies, get rid of Blake Snell as soon as you can in this game. Get to that Dodger bullpen. Make them prove themselves, because they have not had success with doing that throughout the entire season. The other game, too, it'll start at 9:08 p.m. on TBS as well. Cubs at the Brewers. Milwaukee leads this series 1-0 after trouncing Chicago in Game 1. Chicago had the home run in the top of the first, and you thought, okay, can the Cubs compete here? And the Brewers said not so fast to their division rival and just put a beating on them We have Sam Olber here from Locked On Cubs to hear what he has to think of what the Cubs need to do in Game 2 of this series.
It will be all hands on deck for the Cubs Monday night in Milwaukee. I'm Sam Olber from the Locked On Cubs podcast. It was just announced that Shota Imanaga will get the ball for Game 2 against the Brewers. Interesting decision. Really curious to see how he's going to be used. Shota in his career with a 5.73 ERA against the Brewers. A lot of that coming in one really bad outing. But Shota did not finish the year well. He gave up that 2-run homer to Machado against the Padres in the wild card game, and he didn't even start that game. They used an opener for him. I wonder if the Cubs are just going to go with Shota maybe one time through the order, then maybe go to Colin Ray for an inning or two, and then you're going to see all the relievers, Thielbar, Palencia, Pomerantz, Kittredge, Keller, exactly how they won Game 1 and Game 3 against the Padres, because this is basically, to me, an elimination game for the Cubs. I just don't think they could come back from 2-0 down to beat the Brewers, so they got to give everything they got, all the resources they got, they're going to throw at this game, and I just wonder how many batters Imanaga will face. Is he really starting, or is he only going to go 2 or 3 innings? None of that will matter if the Cubs don't hit. They need to get to Quinn Priester. I think they need to score at least 5 runs to win this baseball game. We'll see if they can get it done. Cubs try and even the series Monday night in Milwaukee.
Yeah, he's right on that. The Cubs, it does feel like an elimination game for the Cubs. They're not going to come back down 2-0 to Milwaukee. Milwaukee has Aaron Ashby listed as their starter for this game. He's going to be an opener, though. They're going full bullpen game. It looks like he thinks the Cubs may do the same, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did. It is going to be all hands on deck for the Chicago Cubs. They need to win this game.
And they both understand, again, that day off is built in for Tuesday. So they can sort of, go with those bullpens. And I still don't, the regular season with the opener is one thing. To have an opener, a guy that's going 1 or 2 innings in a playoff series, I just don't think it bodes well for any team. You might get that game, but I don't think it bodes well for you, going long term. You still have a best of 7 American League and National League Championship Series. Then you've got the World Series. I don't want to see the World Series where these, they're pretty much, on a quarter tank to begin with in terms of what's left in the tank. You get into the League Championship Series, the World Series, there's not a whole heck of a lot left. We'll see. The Dodgers seem to do it well. But again, I don't know how many arms you can trust in their bullpen the way it's currently set up. Sasaki at the back end now, where does Scott fit in? Does he become more of a, a 5th, 6th, 7th inning guy? Maybe in a, not maybe a high leverage situation, but a situation where he's got 1 on and 2 outs. He's got to get 1 more out to get out of an inning.
Yeah, no, you're right. And this feels like a spot where the Brewers are not going to lose 3 games in a row. They don't do it very often. They didn't do it very often throughout the season. So it's going to be very hard to come back on them if you don't take Game 2. Make sure you tune into Locked On MLB Game Night tomorrow night after that series. After that game ends, it's going to be massive. They're going to cover both the National League games and preview you for the American League. So I want to thank you for joining us for this episode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We hope that you'll come back tomorrow and visit us next time on Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night.